This is the Urban Astronomer Podcast. Hey there, hi, welcome to episode 31 of the Urban Astronomer Podcast. It feels good to be getting back into a semi-regular rhythm, I gotta say, and I was feeling really positive about where we're taking this thing. And then last night, somebody messaged me to say that they were enjoying the show and could I please help them to find my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Urban Astronomer Podcast, by the way. Anyway, it was great to hear that somebody was giving me money, but really the thing that touches me is just knowing that people are out there taking time out of their day to listen to my little show, and apparently they like it enough to reach out and tell me. That's so nice and wonderful, and it makes me very happy. I've gotten out of the habit of thanking you all for listening, so thank you. It means a lot to me. Anyway, to business. Last episode, I hinted that we would be doing an interview again who had no connection at all to South African astronomy. Well, I'm about to play that recording for you now. A few weeks back, I spoke to Clem Unger, who lives in Australia and serves in his spare time in the ambassador program for the OSIRIS-REx mission, which will be arriving at the asteroid Bennu in December this year, although it begins its approach in just over a month from the time this episode airs. Clem is an amateur astronomer like myself and might even be back on the show in the near future. After the interview, we will also be continuing with our supernova story, although it'll only be a short one today, just cleaning up a few loose ends on stellar evolution before returning to our example star on its road to exploding as a supernova. But meanwhile, here is Clem Unger. Okay, can you just tell us what is your name, what do you do, what's your background, where do you work, all that?
Okay, so my name's Clem Unger. I live in Australia in a place called Mornington, which is sort of an hour southeast of Melbourne. And as you may recognize from my accent, I'm not born in Australia, originally from Germany, and I came out here 22 years ago this year. Time flies. Mm-hmm. And my background originally is chemistry. I'm an industrial chemist, chemical engineer. I've got a little business degree on the side as well. And 20-something years ago, I made a lifestyle decision and came out to Australia, to the great horror of my dad in Germany. Mm-hmm. And I'm still here and enjoying it. I'm working in a totally different field now. I'm mainly doing consulting in the non-for-profit sector area, and mainly with organizations involved in disability management. And I'm on the private side for over 14 years, and that makes me really feel old now, an amateur astronomer. So my granddad back in Germany was an avid stargazer, and that's sort of one of my earliest memories, going outside with him. And that was the times where light pollution wasn't quite what it is these days. And we had a fabulous time, and I joined the local astronomy club over there. That's back in a place called Darmstadt, which is south of Frankfurt. And never looked back. And then I came here to Australia, and first of all, you have to get obviously used to the fact that the constellations from the north you can see from here are upside down, so it's a bit weird when you have Orion suddenly the other way around, and so you need to learn your stars again down here, and especially finding the southern pole is a bit more interesting than when you want to align your telescope than up in the northern hemisphere. But you get the hang of it, and so fabulous. And I ever since I'm in astronomy, and I'm lucky. I've got a very understanding wife who allowed me to build a an observatory in my backyard, and so I've got this lovely dome out there, which allows me, weather permitting, just to go outside and do my thing and not have to set up, and worse, dismantle all your gear after a long night and then with cold fingers drop an eyepiece, which is a bit of a pain. If anyone has the opportunity, I highly recommend it. So you get so many more hours out of it. So it's really great. So that's it in a nutshell, pretty much.
What telescope do you have in that observatory?
Sorry?
What telescope have you got in there?
I've got a 6-inch refractor in there, which I predominantly use for photography. So, I take the eyepieces out. Initially, I bought it to have sort of the best of both worlds, something that is still portable, even though I haven't done that for years now. And you can visually observe, but it's very, very good for planetary work, and I'm sort of hunting the odd little minor planet down. So it's really good for that. And I've got a direct drive mount, which can be a little bit temperamental. It's an Austrian ASA mount, so totally new learning curve there to get that going. And but once you master that, it rewards it with unguided exposures. So it's good, but it takes its time. So you can't drive the telescope without a computer. That's probably the downside. So I miss a little bit, just if you have it in the field, plonk it down and switch it on. That you can't do this with that. That's sort of a little bit a downer, but because of the observatory, it's not happening. So I just open the dome and off we go.
And I suppose you have a laptop or something set up there permanently, or?
Yes, I have a dome. Honestly, I would have preferred actually an observatory with a roll-off roof because I didn't have the space, so I had to settle for a dome. And what I don't like with the dome is the fact that you miss out on this all-sky experience. You have only this opening in the roof, and your software inside, and it tells you where you point your telescope, but you might miss out actually on a nice fireball or something like that, and that's, I think, a little bit negative, and also the fact that a dome is exponentially dearer than a roll-off roof observatory. Yeah, so, but it works well, and it's nicely automated. So if you point the telescope somewhere, the dome rotates with it, and so that took a little while to get that going, but. It's good. I mean, technically, I could sit inside here and do it remotely, but I think that's. I think then I would rather subscribe to iTelescope and let it all.
It's funny, you're describing my ideal setup. Now, I remember 20, almost 30 years ago, the idea of not finding an object by eye, star hopping painfully one bit at a time, was cheating, But a bit older now, sitting there getting cramps in the dew. That's not so much fun anymore,
I totally agree, but I have to say, I mean, if you have any of the planetarium softwares which link into your Mountain, Sky X, and Stellarium and whatever there is, and you just plan your observing session, and then you tick it through, is just amazing. I mean, it's come a long way, and when I think back to the times with my granddad, and I had a small refractor and then a Newton at home, and you basically lugged it around and you pointed, and as you said, you star hop. It's very ancient these days, and I mean, it gets people quicker into the into the hobby, but on the other side, you lose out a little bit because that star hopping teaches you actually where you are, whereas if you just push a button, it's not necessarily so good. So, but
especially with astrophotography, I have a very old mount. It's got and this is just a budget problem. It's not this is not my choice to do it the hard way. But wow, I tell you, the amount of time I take setting up, carrying everything downstairs, getting my polar alignment right, and then the battery dies, and I haven't taken a single photo yet. So.
Yeah, I mean, I fondly remember when I was sitting in the deepest winter in Germany, somewhere outside, and I didn't actually at times have a mount which was driven, so I manually guided with the guide scope the mount and obviously it was not digital cameras, it was all film, and we experimented around with hypersensitizing film with hydrogen. I'm surprised that we didn't burn the house down. And it's amazing, and now you can buy these fantastic CCD cameras which are cooled, and it's just it's a quantum leap ahead. And if you see results from people like Damien Peach, with a lot of your listeners would know, chap from the UK, who does the most amazing planetary photographs with a Celestron 14, and I mean, you would have killed for that at that time. This is unbelievable. It's very professional, and I think it will continue like that. So it makes the hobby even more rewarding than it ever has been, I'd say, if it wasn't only for the light pollution which is creeping in everywhere.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's move on. Can you tell us, I believe you are involved with the OSIRIS-REx mission. What is that?
Okay, OSIRIS-REx is a current NASA mission which is run in conjunction with the University of Arizona, and it goes to near asteroid with the name of Bennu, and it is a sample return mission. So the spacecraft at the moment is underway, and it is expected to arrive at the asteroid this year, mid of August. And it will then, similar to the Rosetta mission, a lot of people know, go into a very extensive survey orbit around the asteroid. And then in 2020, the whole thing will culminate in an attempt to acquire a sample from the surface, which then will hopefully be safely returned to Earth in a clone of the Stardust sample return capsule, so similar technology. And in 2023, hopefully it lands in Utah on a salt lake. So it's exciting. Nice. And the OSIRIS-REx mission, which is OSIRIS-REx is again one of these lovely NASA acronyms. I suppose they have someone sitting in a back room simulate IKEA thinking of names probably all day long. And so it stands for Origins, Spectral Interpretation, Resource Identification, Security, Regolith, Explorer. So obviously long-winded words, so OSIRIS-REx goes quicker over the tongue. So, and like NASA has domestically in the US a group of what they call solar systems ambassadors, which are it's only open to US citizens. At least that's my last sort of information. But with OSIRIS-REx, the group around the principal investigator, his name's Dante Loretta from University of Arizona, decided